the next topic is the debate on substantivism and formalism. So there is a profit motive, there is a self-interest. So thus gave the concept of substantivism and formalism. So they adopted both formal and substantive view so that they can get a more comprehensive idea, understanding of a society. Okay, so the next topic is the debate on substantivism and formalism in economic anthropology. Now try and understand this particular topic. What is the debate about, why it is there, and on what basis this debate happens. All right. Today, in anthropology as a discipline, this concept is not very relevant. But when anthropology as a discipline originated, and especially economic anthropology, when individuals, scholars, anthropologists, when they started to study the economic institutions of societies, especially the primitive societies, okay, so that time, with respect to what approach they should adopt in order to study different societies, that is when the debate started. Okay, see, for example, let me give you a very simple example. Okay, now modern society, okay, there is economic activities, and our economic behavior and decisions are more or less based on self-interest, profit motive, and how much it is going to benefit me, how much profit am I going to make. Okay, whether it is in the capital market, money market, trade and commerce, even at a national level, when they are doing trade with another country, they would see to what extent they are going to benefit from that transaction. Now, even when anthropologists started to study economic institutions, right? So this principle was part of their society also, because most of the anthropologists came from Western societies, civilized, so-called civilized societies, where profit motive was the main agenda of any economic transaction. But they found several practices, economic practices, in simple societies. When they went and observed societies, simple, primitive, indigenous communities, their economic transactions was not based on profit motive. Their economic transaction was not on, based on principle of, scarcity of commodities. It was to do with socio-cultural practices. I'll give you an example, like what we just now discussed, the kula, practice of kula, where they would exchange objects which is of having no utilitarian value, but they would go to all lengths, including risking their life, to exchange it. Now, how would you explain that from a modern economic transaction point of view? Would you risk your life for some object which is of having no utility from an economic point of view? No. But simple society, they do. Similarly, among the Kwakiti Red Indians, they saw these practices called as potlatch, where an individual would go to such a length, hosting feast for others, and even destroying their wealth, okay, like burning of commodities, just to prove a point, just to social elevation. They would become bankrupt, they would destroy their wealth, okay, but they would not worry about it. They would do it even though they would become bankrupt, okay, so that they would be able to gain some social status. They would exchange object, give gifts to everybody. Their entire wealth would be lost. Would you do that in a modern society, is the question. In modern society, would you just go give gifts and donations and other things and you would become pauper? Maybe somebody who has, having some kind of an ideology or value, that's a different person. Generally, when you take a public as a whole, do our value system allow us to do such economic transactions, etc. So the way to study modern economy and the way to study simple primitive society is definitely different, is what I am trying to conclude over here. That we cannot use the same economic principles, same economic approach to study simple society and complex societies. Okay, so modern society, market-based, etc., need to be studied from a formal, point of view. So that is where formalists agree. Formal approach to studying economy. Whereas substantive approach is where you study economy not in isolation but in context of socio-cultural practices as a whole. So this is the debate. So there are some anthropologists who says that we have to use a different approach, and they called it as substantive approach. And then there are others who say that we can use both same approach for both formal and informal. We'll see that debate. Okay, so that is what it is, substantive and formalist debate. So economists assumed that economic man, economists, not our economic anthropologist, the general studies economic teacher, they would say economic man, okay, who has unlimited wants. The resources are scarce, so people make rational choices. So economic man means an individual who takes rational decision. Now, for example, you have to take an economic decision, you would do it practically, rationally, where you will benefit from it, where you will be able to get satisfied. Okay, you have wants, you are scarce, etc. So people across the world would make rational choices, maximization of profits, etc. So this is what economists say. All right, but the question is whether this economic man, that is a Western economic man, the concept, can it be applied even to small scale non-market societies? Now, even in our Indian society, tribals they practice shifting agriculture. Even though they are allowed, even though they are, they have the, even if they are given resources to practice intensive settled agriculture, they would still practice shifting agriculture because of traditional practices. See, like certain tribes in central India, they would not practice settled agriculture. They would practice shifting agriculture because they believe that they should not plow. They should not plow the land, because land has, it is worshipped as mother goddess, and by plowing, you are hurting the mother. So you should not do it, is what they say. And even though it is not productive, even though they are making loss, even though they can practice settled agriculture and they are aware of it, they will not do it. Even if it is going to incur loss, they will do it. They will practice shifting agriculture and not settled agriculture. So here, how can you answer this? If they were rational, they would practice settled agriculture. They are not rational, therefore they are practicing shifting agriculture. Yes, so this is something which you have to keep in mind. So what is this debate is about this. Now, this is related to the application of economic principles to simple society. What are the economic principles? Rational economic man. Who is this rational economic man, or what is the principle of modern economy? So today in GS and all, you will study this. Okay, in your commerce paper, or in modern economics, you will say the principles, practical principles of modern economy. Concept of rational economic man, meaning you will take decisions based on practicality, based on rationality. The choices will be based on concept of marginal utility. Marginal utility, your profit motive, marginal. Self-interest is what will motivate you to take decisions. Self-interest. Am I going to benefit from this? Market operates in based on scarcity. The object which is scarce will be more valuable. The aim of economy is profit. Cost minimization, profit maximization. Decisions are based on the principles of demand and supply. Mode of exchange is currency. Mode of exchange is currency. Is that okay? This is modern economy. This is not important. I mean, this is not something which you need to remember from this topic, but you should be aware of it. What is modern economy? Principles of modern economy. The question now is, the debate now is whether these principles are applicable to simple, indigenous, primitive, hunting, gathering, simple societies or not. This is applicable to modern, civilized, agrarian economy. But is it applicable to primitive, simple society, indigenous societies, the forest dwelling, tribal society? Is it applicable? That's the debate. So there are two schools. One anthropologist who say, no, modern principles cannot be applied to simple societies. They are called as substantivists. The others who say that, yes, modern principles can be applied because even a simple society, they take decisions on rational basis. Okay. It is on self-interest. They want to elevate their social status. Now that is self-interest. So therefore, even their decision is based on formalism, like Kula. So substantivists give the example of Kula and they say that no, see in Kula, they risk their life for something which is of no use. Formalists are saying they risk their life for social elevation, their status elevation. So there is a profit motive. There is a self-interest. That's why you're doing it. Yes, so that is something which they argue. So we'll see further how does this argument, evolves. So the context behind this, how did this all start? Now, Malinowski did a study in Pacific Ocean. I told you, studied Kula among the Trobriand Islanders, etc. And there he said that the concept of economic man, that is the modern economic principles, cannot be applied for primitive society. But on the other hand, Raymond Firth, when he studied the Maori tribe, among them he saw that the primitives took decisions in self-interest for social elevation, to increase their political powers, etc. They did donations and they did economic activities, right? Even primitive man took rational choices, calculus of maximization. So they started to fight, no, we can study it like any other society. They don't need separate thing, blah, blah, blah. In this context, Karl Polanyi, in his book, The Great Transformation, 1944, Karl Polanyi, okay, in his book, The Great Transformation, okay, gave this concept. Okay, maybe he, in his book, The Great Transformation, he made the distinction. He made the distinction of economy. There are two meanings for economy, is what he says. He says the formal meaning, which is based on the economic principle. I told you, profit maximization, self-interest, demand and supply. So based on the economic principle. Whereas substantivism studies man and his economic behavior within the socio-natural environment, not in isolation. Okay, so that is substantivist. He argued that in small-scale societies, the economic activities are embedded in social institutions like kinship, politics, religion. So their economic behavior, actions are regulated not simply by economic principles like in modern society, but based on kinship relationship, politics, religion. See, for example, why doesn't they practice settled agriculture? Because they believe that settled agriculture requires plowing. Plowing would harm the mother earth and they would get angry and we would be cursed. Okay, so therefore that's what he said. And market, profit, demand, supply is not universal, is what Karl Polanyi and his followers, they say. That no, market is not there, profit motive is not existing. So therefore, it all emerged, market, profit, emerged in capital societies later on, not in the simple society. So since there is no market and profit motive, you cannot apply it, is what he says. Right, so Karl Polanyi, he belonged to substantivist group and he says that economic institutions are just simple instruments by needs, but they are part of the social relationship and kinship. And individual makes his decision to safeguard his social political standing rather than individual profit motive, is what he says. So in this context, see, example, like the potlatch in, as I told you, potlatch among the Quackity Red Indians. So they are this American Red Indian tribes who practice this potlatch. You can see the picture over here. Potlatch, it's a type of ceremonial exchange. So here you can see they would buy, large number of gifts and they would distribute those gifts to people. So destroyed wealth for social status. So they would be even ready to become economically poor in the name of status. If you see traditional people, okay, they would, have big weddings. Even if they don't have money, they would borrow, have wedding, and they might even go into debt. But they would have a big wedding because of social status. Now that is a traditional society. Today, modern society, practically they'll say, "Arey, why do I have to give so many people, couples today? They don't have lavish weddings." They would say that, why spend money on those people? We will buy an apartment and we will stay. So that's a practical decision. But earlier they would take it, oh no, our status, our family, we have to do it like this, we have to do it like that. So like that, every decision, like they would have festivals, they would have puja, and they would distribute gifts to them. Even when they could not, they'll take loan and give. You might have seen it yourself, some of your relatives, even if they are poor, they will have big public functions to display their wealth and all of that. Why are they doing it? Even when they are economically, it does not make sense. But still they would do it because of social elevation. Same way over here, you can see they would destroy their wealth. Is an integral part of indigenous culture. Feast in which gifts were distributed. The size of the guests would indicate their social status. Potlatch were generally held to commemorate significant event of their life, like weddings and marriage, etc. The host would assume, by throwing such lavish party, the host would assume a higher social status. So here the decision is embedded, the economic decision is embedded in socio-political institutions and not just merely on economic principles. That's what Karl Polanyi and the other anthropologists say. So you can see here, right? So this is a picture of this one, Quackity Red Indians, the gifts, the copper gifts that they would give to their guests, okay, and something like that. So thus gave the concept of substantivism and formalism. So Karl Polanyi, in The Great Transformation, in this book, he makes this distinction, and he says, if you want to study simple society, then you are supposed to study them from a substantivism point of view, substantive point of view, because economic institutions are instituted process and embedded in other institutions. They're basically goods and services for all social and biological needs. So here you can use it for all society, all time, etc. Western concepts cannot be applied, is what he says. So anthropologists like Malinowski, Karl Polanyi, George Dalton, Salins, Paul Bohannon, these are anthropologists who belong to the substantive group. He makes the distinction from them to formal economists who say that, whether it is modern, whether it is primitive, they can be studied from a formal economic principle point of view. They are called as formalists. So they say that even in primitive society, they take choices rationally where individual profit is important. So personal satisfaction, distributing the scarce resource. Now this copper plate in copper object among the Quackity, they are rare. So they find happiness in distributing them. All right. So Raymond Firth, Hashkowitz, Harold K. Schneider, all these are, they are belonging to formalist camp. Yes. So this is the basis context of the debate. Now let's further argue on what basis did they make this distinction. What does the formalist and what did the substantivists argue? Okay, any doubt? So the difference between formalists, and difference between substantivism is on the basis of these three criteria. So we will differentiate them based on these three criteria. One, rational economic man, insufficiency, scarcity, choice, market, money, and trade. On these three subheadings, we can discuss the difference between the two schools of thought. So the first one is rational economic man. Okay, rational economic man. The substantivists say that in simple society, man does not take rational decisions. Okay, his decision is taken within the concept of society and not based on individual interest. It is not based on individual interest, but it is taken in the context of society. He does not act to safeguard his own interest, or he does not act to maximize his profit. He does that in the social context, is what he says. For example, the Ibn. Okay, so they harvest, okay, using knife and not sickle. They harvest rice using knife and not sickle. So if basically if you use sickle, it's easy to harvest. It has a curved cutting edge, so therefore it's easy to harvest paddy using sickle, but they use knife. Okay, they believe that if they use sickle, okay, the rice spirits will be angry, and they will not have good harvest because of it. So they still use this. Even though rationally what makes sense is sickle, they still use knife. So their decision is not rational, is what substantivists give example and argue. On the other hand, rational economy, they say, the formalists say that no, even in simple societies, decisions are based on self-interest. It may not be simply economic profit, but some other form of self-interest. Man is rational, his choices are also based on self-interest. Even in simple society, it is so. Not necessarily in terms of money. For example, potlatch. Maybe not earning money here, but by destroying his wealth, he is gaining social prestige. Next, the second criteria on the basis of which there is difference is insufficiency, scarcity, and choices. See, now understand this. In modern society, formalism, what we generally have is there is insufficiency. We have unlimited wants. So therefore, there's always going to be insufficiency. If I have one car, another person has 3 cars, I feel that I am insufficient. I also need 3 cars. So insufficiency, okay, is there, which is universal, which leads to scarcity. So now I will feel that I have scarcity because he has 3 cars, I have only 1 car, so I have scarcity. So whenever there is scarcity, I make rational choices. Is that understood? So man has unlimited wants, scarcity is universal, choices are made in sequence. Okay. So now, for example, if there is something limited, we want it more. So that is universal, is what formalists say. But on the other hand, the substantivists say, no, this scarcity is culturally driven. What is scarce is decided by the society. There is no universal scarcity. Now, for example, if a society there is no concept of car, yes, there is no need for car. Nobody will work towards buying a car, and there is no need for being aggressive in earning car. So scarcity is something which is socially driven. In simple society, there's no concept of scarcity. If you go to like tribal people, is what they are saying. So they are not very materialistic. So they don't have so much of, like desires. Okay, but in modern society, capitalistic society, there is always, some kind of a desire to get more and more. So that scarcity, therefore, is present. Then the third concept is market, money, and trade. So formalists say that market is a universal concept. See, for example, they need not have a marketplace, physical market, but the concept of market based on demand and supply exists in every society, because whenever there is a scarcity, there is a high demand, and therefore the prices will be high. Okay, whether it is barter, whether it is based on money, doesn't matter. There is always going to be a market based on demand and supply. Even non-industrial society makes rational choices. They weigh the cost and benefit and then takes decision. On the other hand, substantivists say, no, market, money, trade, they are not present in simple society. So even if it is there, trade is happening so that you get something which you don't have, and it's a group activity, and it is to promote social bond and not to cheat somebody and make profit. No, trade is simply to get something which you don't have. Market is there where you go buy things, and along with buying things, you do so many other things. You talk to your friends, disputes are settled in markets, you settle weddings in markets, and you go have fair and other things. Like if you have gone to village market, Sante, Shandy or Jatre, whatever they tell. So there you go, you do trade, but you also have religious functions there, political functions, social gathering. So market exists even in simple society. They are not the market that exists in modern society. Market is there, but market is not just economy in simple society. Money does not exist everywhere, and money developed outside market, and trade, that is exchange, happens in order to just fulfill the shortage, fulfill things you don't have. It's a group activity. It happens because you want to establish a social bond, like ceremonial trade. Yes, you exchange goods because you want to establish a bond with them, reciprocity. So therefore, what substantivists say, that market, money, trade, they are very different concept than what we study and see in modern complex society. Okay, so this is something which you have to keep in mind. So these are the three criteria on the basis of which societies have been divided into formalist and substantivist studies. Yes, so simple society, formalists say, can be studied in both ways. Substantivists, on the other hand, say, no, 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 we cannot do it. So I hope you understood. So this is how this debate happened and on what basis or criteria this happened. All right, so quick comparison. Economic man, formalists say universal. All people in every society, economic man meaning take decision rationally. But substantivists say economic man is a Western concept and it does not exist in simple society. It happens, the choices there don't happen because of rationality. The choices happen for kinship, ritual, and prestige. Scarcity, formalists say universal. Substantivists say it is socially defined. Many societies regulates want and thus avoid scarcity. Now, if you go to hunting and gathering, the Kung Bushmen, they may not have a house, they might not have clothes, they might not have mobile, internet, television, etc. But still, they never feel that there is some scarcity there. They are happy with just, hunting, gathering. They will hunt, aram se sleep, and they feel like they are the king of the world. But we might be living in 3-story building, 5 cars, job, everything, but still we will be like, oh my God, there is scarcity. So scarcity is socially determined, and many society take action to prevent this concept of scarcity. They are not aware of this. See, you might not be able to know, I may not be able to understand what is this concept of not being scarce, not having scarcity. Because we don't know, but we have grown up in a capitalistic world where we see another person and we feel that we are not having it and therefore there's scarcity. But there are many society where the concept of scarcity is not there in their dictionary only. They don't know what it is. They're happy otherwise only. Choices and rationality. Rational calculations everywhere is what they say. Even potlatch, they take rational decision for prestige. Whereas substantivists say rationality is embedded in culture, not about maximization, but to promote social ties. It's not like profit, concept of profit that we see in modern society. Market money, universal. Even if there is no money, there is market. Whereas substantivists say, no, it is absent in simple society. Exchange is embedded in social relationship like reciprocity and redistribution. Like, for example, chief is there. You voluntarily give tribute to them. So how do you explain profit maximization there? You can't. Unit of analysis, individual, because self-interest. Unit of study is social institution like kinship system, lineage, culture. The goal of production is profit maximization, whereas the substantivists say in simple society, the goal of production is social reproduction, prestige, obligation, solidarity, social relationship, networking, friends, family, kinship, etc. Now, this is the difference between substantivism and formalism. So very important, very easy topic. A 20 marker, 15 marker can be asked over here. So this happened in the beginning, in 1950s, 40s, 50s and all of that. Went on up to 70s. 70s may the younger anthropologist who came, they said that it is futile to fight between, substantivist and formalism. The better thing would be to incorporate both ideas in studying societies. Instead of rejecting either of them, incorporate. You blend, hybridize them and study. So after 70s, they started to synthesize. The debate cooled down and anthropologists started to adopt a middle ground. So they adopted both formal and substantive view so that they can get a more comprehensive idea, understanding of a society. So rationality did exist, but this rationality is culturally defined. Here, your rationality may be profit motive. In simple society, rationality may be social elevation. But rationality is there. At the same time, economy must be studied both formal and substantive context. The current view is use multiple approaches to understand this. All society mix these principles in different proportions. So anthropologists today use plural economic aspect, like studying local from a global point of view and global from a local point of view, traditional from a capitalistic or market point of view, and market from a traditional point of view. So that is why even today when we see market principle they are bringing in emotional concept, social concept. So you can see advertisements. So the advertisements talk about family and friendship and things like that, and they try to sell that idea to consumers in order to try to reduce the concept of rationality and bring in the substantive view even in modern economy. So this way, a blend of both will help us to meet the challenges of understanding economy in different society. Okay, so this is the debate of substantivism and formalism, a 20 marker, a 15 marker, or sometimes even a 10 marker question. It's basically about the different approaches to study economy of different society. Okay, any doubt?